Hello everyone. Today, I'm going to show you 5 photos that hide a terrifying backstory. These aren't just images, they are the evidence of real-life tragedies. Let's begin. The first story involves a man named Sun Bora. In 2019, Bora was a 28-year-old man living in Cambodia. He was a humble farmer who often worked in the fields with his friends. However, to make extra money, he engaged in a dangerous but profitable side job, collecting bat guano. In this region, bat droppings are extremely valuable because they are a potent natural fertilizer, rich in nutrients, and farmers can sell them for a high price. To find this black gold, Bora had to venture into deep caves within the Chakri mountain range, where the bats lived. On that fateful day, Bora left his friends in the field, telling them he had something to do. He went to the mountain alone and found a narrow entrance to a cave. He chose this specific tight spot because he believed that since it was so small, no one else had been inside, meaning there would be more guano for him to collect. He squeezed inside and initially found a small amount which he collected in a bag. But he wasn't satisfied. He pushed himself deeper into a tighter passage. Using his flashlight to illuminate the path, he saw a larger cavern further down, teeming with bats. But as he tried to maneuver toward the prize, disaster struck. He accidentally dropped his flashlight, his only source of light, into a deep, narrow crevice below. Without that light, he couldn't navigate his way back out. In a desperate attempt to retrieve it, he slid down into the narrow gap. The rock formation acted like a funnel. It got tighter the deeper he went. He became completely wedged in the stone, unable to move up or down. For days, he was trapped in that stone coffin, dehydrated and starving in absolute darkness. His family realized he was missing when he didn't come home, and his brother eventually went to the mountain to search for him. After searching for a long time, the brother found the cave entrance and heard a faint murmuring sound coming from the rocks. He shone his flashlight down the crack and saw the terrifying sight of Bora wedged deep inside. This photo captures the sheer desperation of his situation. He had been stuck there for nearly 4 days. The rescue was incredibly difficult. It took about 200 rescue workers and heavy equipment to carefully chip away the rock around him. Miraculously, after his ordeal in the dark, Bora was pulled out alive and taken to the hospital. The second story involves a woman named Jennifer Kesse. The year was 2006. Jennifer was 24 years old and living a successful life in the city of Orlando, Florida. She was a finance manager, earning a high salary, and had already bought her own condo at a young age. However, this achievement came with a persistent, creeping sense of dread. The area around her condo was undergoing massive renovations, turning her home into an active construction site. Jennifer often confided in her friends and family that she felt deeply uncomfortable. She told them that whenever she walked to her car, the construction workers would stop what they were doing and stare at her in silence. She felt like she was being watched constantly, like prey in a trap, right in the place where she was supposed to feel safest. She had a boyfriend named Rob, whom she had met by chance at a bar during a night out. Since they lived in different cities, they made it a rule to text every single morning to stay connected. On the morning of January 24th, that routine was suddenly broken. Rob woke up to silence. No text, no call. Panic set in immediately because Jennifer was not the type to disappear. He called her office to check on her, but she hadn't shown up for work. Terrified, he called her parents. They rushed to her building, but couldn't get inside, so they had to ask the property manager to unlock the door for them. When they entered her condo, the scene was baffling. The shower was still wet, and her work clothes were laid out on the bed. The logic was clear. She hadn't been taken at night. She was likely taken in the morning, in the terrifyingly short window of time between locking her door and walking to her car, exactly where those workers usually watched her. Days later, police found her car abandoned at a different apartment complex about a mile away. Investigators rushed to view the security footage, convinced they would finally see the face of the abductor, perhaps one of the men she had feared. They found a suspect on the tape parking the car and walking away, but look closely at this image. This is why this case remains one of the most frustrating mysteries in history. The security camera was programmed to take a snapshot every 3 seconds. In a stroke of unbelievable, maddening bad luck, the suspect walked with a rhythm that perfectly matched the camera's blind spots. In every single frame captured, the suspect's face is perfectly hidden behind the black iron bars of the fence. You can see their body, you can see their stride, but the fence obscures their identity in every single shot. If the suspect had walked just one step faster or 1 second slower, their face would have been visible. Because of this lucky coincidence, the identity of the person who took Jennifer Kesse remains a mystery, and she is still missing to this day. The third story involves a man named Andrei Karlov. To understand the weight of this image, we first need to understand who Andrei Karlov was. He wasn't just an ordinary tourist or a businessman. He was a titan in the world of Russian diplomacy. He served as the face of his nation for decades, acting as the ambassador to politically complex regions like North Korea and South Korea. Most recently, he held the critical position of Russian ambassador to Turkey. He was a man accustomed to high-stakes environments, yet tragedy struck him in the most unexpected place. The date was December 19, 2016. Karlov attended the opening of an art exhibition in Ankara, Turkey. The event was titled Russia as Seen by Turks, intended to be a celebration of cultural exchange and a bridge of peace between the two nations. The room was filled with the flashing lights of press cameras, journalists, and dignitaries. Standing at the podium, Karlov felt a complete sense of safety. Why wouldn't he? He was surrounded by a phalanx of security personnel and police officers. In his mind, every man in a suit in that room was there to take a bullet for him, not to give him one. He began his speech, projecting confidence and calm, unaware that his life was being counted down in seconds. But among the protectors, there was a predator. As Karlov spoke, a man standing directly behind him, who looked exactly like a dedicated bodyguard, suddenly drew a semi-automatic handgun. He didn't fire at an intruder, he fired at the ambassador's back. 9 shots rang out, echoing through the gallery. Karlov collapsed instantly as the room erupted into chaos. The gunman didn't flee. He stood his ground, pacing around the body and shouting furiously until security forces arrived and killed him in a shootout. Both the assassin and the diplomat died that day. The terrifying reality of this story is captured in this specific photo. The man in the black suit, standing calmly behind Karlov, is Mevlut Mert Altintas. Mevlut was a 20-year-old Turkish riot police officer. He was off duty that day, but he used his police badge to bypass the venue's security checkpoints. He positioned himself directly behind the ambassador, posing as part of the security detail. He blended in so perfectly that no one suspected a thing. His motive remains a chilling piece of history. After firing the fatal shots, Mevlut didn't just stand there. He screamed a message to the world. He shouted, "Don't forget Aleppo! Don't forget Syria!" This was a direct reference to the brutal civil war raging in Syria at the time, specifically the battle for the city of Aleppo, where Russian military involvement was a point of massive controversy. Some believe this was an act of personal revenge for the suffering in Syria. Others believe he was a pawn in a larger plot to destroy diplomatic relations between Turkey and Russia. Regardless of the why, the how is what makes this image so haunting. This photo was taken just seconds before the assassination. The killer is right there in the frame, sharing the spotlight with his victim. He looks like a guardian angel, but he was actually the angel of death, waiting for the perfect moment to strike from the shadows of plain sight. The fourth story involves the Monon High Bridge. This bridge is located in the state of Indiana, USA, and it is an abandoned railroad structure that towers high above the trees. It has long been a popular spot for locals who want to hike and enjoy nature, but in 2017, this scenic trail became the setting for a horrifying mystery involving 2 best friends, Abigail Williams, known as Abby, and Liberty German, known as Libby. On February 13, 2017, the 2 teenagers decided to take advantage of an unusually warm winter day. They went to the bridge to hang out and take pictures. It was supposed to be a fun, innocent afternoon. At one point, Libby took out her phone and snapped a photo of Abby walking across the high rickety bridge. That photo shows Abby looking down, calm and happy, but shortly after that photo was taken, the girls vanished. When family members arrived to pick them up, the girls were nowhere to be found. Calls went straight to voicemail. Panic set in, and a massive search party was organized. Tragically, the next day, police discovered the bodies of both girls in the woods nearby. They had been murdered. At first, investigators seemed to have nothing, but when they unlocked Libby's smartphone, they found something incredible. In her final moments, sensing danger, Libby had quietly started recording video. She captured a grainy image of a man walking behind them on the bridge. This photo is the only reason this case had any hope of being solved. It shows a man in a blue jacket and jeans, walking with his head down, closing the distance on the girls. Along with the image, Libby's phone also recorded audio of a male voice giving a terrifying command: "Guys, down the hill." This image became the obsession of the internet. In 2017, police released a sketch based on witness descriptions. But then, in 2019, the investigation took a confusing turn. Police released a second sketch that looked completely different, much younger, and told the public to disregard the first one. Despite having the killer's photo and 2 sketches, no one could find a match, and the case went cold. That finally changed in 2002. Police arrested a local man named Richard Allen. The chilling detail? Richard Allen wasn't a stranger. He was a pharmacy technician at the local CVS store in Delphi. He had been living in the community the entire time, serving the grieving families, hiding in plain sight. While Richard Allen remains the primary accused, the case has become even more complex. His defense team has presented a dark alternative theory. They claim the girls were sacrificed in a ritualistic killing by a pagan cult known as Odinists. However, this is currently just a defense theory. As of right now, the case against Richard Allen is moving forward. The final story involves a man named Eben Byers. In the early 20th century, Eben was the envy of everyone. He was young, handsome, and born into a wealthy industrial family. He didn't just rely on his family's money, he was a talented athlete, even becoming a US amateur golf champion. Eventually, he took over his father's business as chairman. He had health, wealth, and status, but a minor accident on a train changed everything. In 1927, while traveling in a sleeping car, Eben fell out of his bunk bed and injured his arm. The injury wasn't life-threatening, but the pain was persistent. His doctors, wanting to help, recommended a popular new patent medicine called Radithor. You have to understand the context at the time. In the 1920s, people didn't fear radiation. They thought it was a miracle cure. Radithor was marketed as perpetual sunshine, a drink that promised to energize the body and cure all aches. It was essentially water infused with radioactive radium. Eben bought a bottle to try. The results seemed miraculous. His arm pain vanished, and he felt a massive unnatural surge of energy. He felt stronger than ever. Convinced he had found the secret to eternal health, Eben became addicted. He started drinking it every single day, sometimes 3 bottles a day. Over the course of 3 years, he consumed a staggering 1,400 bottles of Radithor. Then, the energy stopped. Eben began to suffer from blinding headaches and severe dizzy spells. He started losing weight rapidly. Then came the toothaches. He didn't know it, but the radium was settling in his bones, destroying his skeleton from the inside out. The horror reached its peak one morning, when his entire lower jaw simply detached from his skull and fell off. This photo reveals the gruesome reality of his addiction. By the time doctors realized what was happening, it was too late. His body was literally rotting while he was still alive. Eben Byers died a slow, agonizing death in 1932 from radiation-induced cancer. His tragedy finally woke the world up, leading to the immediate banning of radioactive medicines like Radithor. Even after he died, the radiation inside him remained dangerous. His body was so radioactive that he could not be buried in a normal grave. He had to be sealed inside a lead-lined coffin to prevent the radiation from his corpse from leaking out and poisoning the soil. To this day, nearly a century later, Eben Byers is still resting in that lead box, a permanent warning about the price of the unknown. Okay, those are the 5 true stories behind these real-life photos. If these stories gave you chills, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. And let me know in the comments which photo impressed you the most. I'll be reading your thoughts. Bye for now.